was empty. 3 men wanted it, and one battle would decide the future of England. On October 14, 1066, a fight on a wind-swept hill did not just choose a king, it changed a country's language, ruling class, and destiny for centuries. Most battles win land, some win treasure. Hastings won something far bigger, the right to reshape an entire nation. If you want to understand why England after 1066 looked so different from England before it, you have to start with a dead king, a disputed promise, and a chain of events that moved with shocking speed. In January 1066, King Edward the Confessor died without a direct heir. In the medieval world, that was a national crisis, not just a family matter. England was one of the strongest kingdoms in Western Europe, and whoever took its throne would gain great wealth and power. Rival claims appeared almost at once. The strongest English candidate was Harald Godwinson, Earl of Wessex, backed by the Witan, the council of leading English nobles. Harold was crowned King Harold II soon after Edward's death. Inside England, the succession seemed settled. Outside England, it did not. Across the Channel, William, Duke of Normandy, believed the crown belonged to him. He claimed that Edward had promised him the throne, and that Harold had sworn an oath to support that claim. Whether every detail happened exactly as Norman writers later described is still debated, but William saw Harold's coronation as a direct challenge. He did not accept Harold as the rightful king. In the 11th century, such disputes were often decided by war. As if that were not enough, a third claimant entered the struggle. Harald Hardrada, King of Norway, also believed he had a valid right to the English throne. He was not a minor outsider, but one of Europe's most feared warriors. So England in 1066 faced 3 powerful men ready to fight for the crown. That alone would have made the year historic. What followed made it unforgettable. Harold knew invasion was likely, especially from William, so he gathered forces and watched the southern coast. But before William crossed the Channel, the first major attack came from the north. In September 1066, Harald Hardrada invaded England with a large army, joined by Harold's exiled brother Tostig. The Norwegians advanced into northern England and won an early success near York. Harold reacted quickly, marching his army north in one of the most impressive movements of the age. On September 25, Harold met Hardrada at the Battle of Stamford Bridge. The result was a major English victory. Hardrada was killed, Tostig was killed, and the Norwegian invasion collapsed. It was one of Harold's finest achievements and made him look like exactly the king England needed. But history can be brutally unfair. Harold barely had time to celebrate before news arrived that William of Normandy had landed in the south. This is where the story becomes almost unbelievable in its pace. Harold had just fought one major battle in the north, and now he had to lead his army all the way south to face another invader. William landed near Pevensey at the end of September and quickly secured a foothold in Sussex. He built fortifications, gathered supplies, and raided the surrounding area. William wanted to force Harold into battle before the English king could rebuild his strength. Harold chose to confront him quickly. He could have waited longer and gathered more men, but delay had its own dangers. William's army was active in the south, and every day he remained unchallenged made him more dangerous, so Harold marched again. By the time he reached the Hastings area, his army had shown great endurance, but it had also been worn down by weeks of strain, movement, and battle. In medieval war, fatigue, timing, and terrain could matter as much as courage. The two armies met on October 14, 1066, probably near Senlac Hill. Harold took a strong defensive position on high ground, a smart choice. His army, made up of elite housecarls and other English troops, formed a shield wall. Warriors stood shoulder to shoulder with overlapping shields, axes, and spears, creating one of the strongest defensive formations of the age. For anyone attacking uphill into that line, the odds were grim. William's army was different. It included infantry, archers, and cavalry, especially mounted Norman knights, giving him tactical flexibility Harold largely lacked. The Normans could strike from a distance and at close range. The battle began with Norman archers firing uphill, but arrows alone could not easily break a shield wall on high ground. Infantry attacks followed, then cavalry assaults. Again and again, the shield wall held. For a time, it looked as if Harold's army might stop the invasion in a single day. Norman attacks struggled and parts of William's line reportedly fell back. According to later sources, rumors even spread that William had been killed. If true, that could have shattered Norman morale. But William responded dramatically, riding among his men and showing his face so they could see he was alive. Then came the battle's turning point. At some stage in the fighting, sections of the English force left the safety of the shield wall to chase retreating Normans downhill. Whether this happened because the Normans used a feigned retreat or because confusion pulled English troops out of position, the result was the same. Once the formation opened, it lost its greatest strength. William's forces took advantage of those gaps, turned on the pursuers, and cut them down. That pattern seems to have repeated through the day. The English line was tough, but the Normans were relentless. Archers, infantry, cavalry, pressure, regrouping, and attack again. William adapted while Harold's force slowly wore down. Hastings showed that even a strong position can fail if discipline slips and pressure never stops. One wrong move, and history changes. Late in the battle came its most famous and disputed moment, the death of King Harold. Tradition says he was struck in the eye by an arrow, a story often linked to the Bayeux Tapestry, but historians still debate exactly how he died. He may have been wounded by an arrow or cut down in close combat during the final Norman assault. Medieval sources are often unclear, but on one point there was no debate. Harold died on the field. The collapse of Harold's leadership shattered English resistance. Some fighting continued, but the Norman victory was clear. William had won the Battle of Hastings and broken the strongest military response to his claim. The road to the English crown was now open. Resistance did not vanish overnight, but Hastings was the decisive step. On Christmas Day, 1066, William was crowned King of England in Westminster Abbey. So why did Hastings matter so much? Because this was not just one ruler replacing another. The Norman victory transformed England from the top down. Much of the old Anglo-Saxon aristocracy was replaced by Norman lords, and land was redistributed to William's followers. Castles spread across England as symbols of military control. Royal authority grew stronger, and England became much more closely tied to continental Europe.
That is why the Battle of Hastings remains one of the most important turning points in European history. It ended Anglo-Saxon rule, launched Norman England, and altered the country's politics, society, language, and future development. A disputed succession became an invasion became a battle became a conquest, and that conquest changed England for centuries. Nearly 1,000 years later, Hastings still feels alive because its consequences never fully disappeared. You can hear them in the English language, see them in castle ruins, and trace them in English law and government. Few battles leave that kind of mark on a nation. Hastings did. If you enjoyed this story and want more documentary-style history about great battles, lost empires, and the moments that changed the world, subscribe and turn on notifications. And tell me in the comments which battle should we cover next.